welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The ocean breeze was a soothing balm, but not even the serene waves of our favorite beach could mask the storm brewing within me. Claire and I had always escaped to Brighton Beach Resort during rough patches, a place where salty air made life's complexities seem trivial. So, when I suggested a weekend getaway to possibly mend the growing distance between us, her refusal stung sharply. "I can't, Mark. There's a critical project at work, and I'm needed all weekend," Claire had said, not meeting my eyes as she packed her laptop and documents into her bag. Her voice was firm, her excuse plausible, yet something in her demeanor didn't sit right with me. Days later, the weight of my suspicions crushed me as I scrolled through Facebook. A friend had tagged Claire in a post with photos from Brighton Beach Resort. There she was, radiant and unmistakably happy, but not with me. She was perched on another man's lap, his lips pressed against her neck, a stark contrast to the busy weekend she had claimed. My heart raced, anger and betrayal intertwining tightly. The next few hours were a blur of rage and disbelief. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I drove to the resort, my mind replaying the images over and over. When I arrived, the receptionist recognized me instantly, her face a mix of pity and discomfort. "Oh, Mr. Stevens, we weren't expecting you." "Mrs. Stevens checked in yesterday," she stuttered, avoiding my gaze. "With whom?" My voice was calm, but it belied the chaos inside. "A guest, sir. They requested not to be disturbed." The confirmation was a gut punch. I thanked her, my plans forming as I turned away. I wasn't going to confront Claire, not yet. Instead, I needed proof, irrefutable evidence that she couldn't explain away. I contacted a private investigator, a move that felt like stepping into a cold, dark abyss. That evening, as shadows lengthened and the sky turned a deep orange, I sat alone on the beach. The waves crashed relentlessly, mirroring the turmoil in my heart. My mind raced with memories of Claire, the love we shared, now tainted and twisted. I felt foolish, betrayed, yet a resolve settled over me. She had chosen to deceive and hurt me, and I couldn't let that stand. The revenge I planned wouldn't be petty or violent, it would be precise, leaving her to confront the chaos she'd invited into our lives. I would ensure the divorce left her with nothing but regrets and a reminder of what she had lost. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized the man I was yesterday was gone, swallowed by the cold reality of betrayal. Tomorrow, I would start the process of dismantling the life of the person who had vowed to be my partner. Claire would soon learn that her actions had consequences, and I would make sure she never forgot the lesson. The following morning dawned with a deceptive calm. I woke up determined, the plan clear in my mind. Today, I would start collecting the proof I needed to expose Claire and protect myself in the ensuing battle. I made a few phone calls, ensuring that my day was free of interruptions. Around mid-morning, the private investigator, whom I had contacted the previous night, returned my call. "Mr. Stevens, I've started surveillance at the resort as you requested. We should have something by the end of the day," he informed me briskly. "Keep everything documented, photos, videos, times, everything," I instructed, my voice steelier than I felt. "Of course, sir. You'll have a full report." I spent the day restless, trying to distract myself with work, but my thoughts were incessant, always snapping back to Claire and her deceit. By late afternoon, an email notification pulled me from my brooding. It was from the investigator, and attached were photos and videos of Claire and the man, candid shots of them at the resort, laughing together, dining, walking along the beach intimately. Each image was a jab, a reality I still struggled to accept. I downloaded everything, backing it up meticulously. This evidence was more than enough for the divorce proceedings, but it wasn't just about legal battles anymore. It was personal. That evening, I confronted Claire. I waited for her in the living room, the lights dim, the atmosphere as tense as my clenched jaw. The moment she walked through the door, her smile faltered upon seeing my expression. "Mark, what's—" "Sit down, Claire. We need to talk." My voice was flat, almost detached. She hesitated, then moved slowly to the couch, her eyes wary. "What's wrong?" Instead of answering, I handed her my tablet, the photos displayed glaringly on the screen. She gasped, her face draining of color as she flicked through each one. "Mark, How long, Claire?" I cut her off, needing to hear her admit it. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, but the lie was weak, even to her ears. "Stop lying to me." My voice rose, a sharp edge cutting the air between us. "I deserve the truth. How long have you been seeing him?" The room was thick with tension, her silence a suffocating blanket. Finally, she whispered, 3 months. The confession was a blow, even though I had expected it. "Why, Claire? Why him, why this?" "I don't know. I was confused, and you were always so busy, and he was there, and," her voice trailed off, a mix of guilt and defiance in her eyes. "I want a divorce, Claire." The words were more painful to say than I anticipated, yet necessary. "What?" "No, Mark, please, we can fix this," she begged, reaching out to me. "No," I stepped back, my resolve firm. "You made your choice, and I've made mine. I'll have my lawyer contact you tomorrow." As she sobbed, pleading for another chance, I felt a part of me harden. This was just the beginning. My next steps were clear: protect my assets, ensure the divorce was swift, and make her regret her betrayal deeply. As I walked away from her, from us, the plan for retribution was already forming, colder and more calculated than the crashing waves outside. The chill of the morning mirrored the frost in my veins as I set off to meet my lawyer, Catherine Miles. A seasoned shark in legal waters, Catherine had been my choice because of her no-nonsense approach and impeccable record. As I walked into her office, the air was thick with the anticipation of the coming legal storm. "Mark, good to see you under better circumstances next time, I hope," Catherine greeted me, motioning towards the chair across her desk. "Thanks, Catherine. Let's hope so," I replied, settling down and placing my folder of evidence on her desk. She opened the folder, her eyes scanning the contents professionally. "This is substantial. You've got everything documented meticulously. Good work. It strengthens your case significantly." I nodded, feeling a grim satisfaction at her words. "What are our next steps?" "We file for divorce on the grounds of infidelity. I'll draft the papers today. Your evidence will help us push for a favorable settlement," she explained, her pen poised over her notepad. "And the house, the finances?" I asked, leaning forward. "We'll aim to secure the majority for you. Given the circumstances and your documentation, it's likely the court will look favorably upon your petition." Catherine's confidence was reassuring, yet the weight of the situation remained heavy on my shoulders. I want to ensure she doesn't walk away with much. What she did, I paused, the bitterness evident. "We'll make sure she regrets her decisions, legally speaking," Catherine added, her tone sharp and decisive. Leaving her office, I felt the first stirrings of control returning to my life. The legal gears were in motion, and though the path was fraught with emotional landmines, the thought of justice being served provided a cold comfort. Later that day, I returned home to find Claire waiting for me. Her eyes were red, her posture defeated. "Mark, please, can we talk?" she implored as I entered. "There's nothing left to say, Claire. You'll hear from my lawyer soon," I said, moving past her to head upstairs. "Is there no chance for us? For forgiveness?" Her voice cracked, laden with desperation. I stopped, turning to face her. You thought nothing of our vows when you were with him. Why should I think of forgiveness now? I'm sorry, Mark. Truly, I am, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Sorry doesn't change what happened. It doesn't erase the images burned in my mind, I replied coldly, the images from the investigator flashing through my mind, reigniting the anger. I left her standing there, her sobs echoing in the empty hallway as I went upstairs. The evening was long and solitude did little to soothe the turmoil inside me. Each ticking second was a reminder of the betrayal, and with it, my resolve hardened. Sleep was elusive, and as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the shadows seemed to whisper of revenge and retribution. Claire's deceit had shattered more than just our marriage, it had ignited a fire within me, one that would not be quenched until justice had its day. Tomorrow, I would see the first tangible results of my legal maneuvers. Tomorrow, the battle would truly begin. The day of the court hearing dawned, bleak and gray, mirroring the tumult in my heart. As I made my way to the courthouse, my mind was a whir of strategy and finality. Today, I would end this chapter of my life, sealing it with the cold satisfaction of retribution. Inside the courtroom, the air was tense, charged with the impending showdown. Claire was already there, looking pale and drawn. Her eyes met mine briefly, a flicker of something akin to regret passing through, but I was beyond any compassion. Mr. Stevens, are you ready to proceed? Catherine whispered, her voice a sharp blade ready to cut through the proceedings. Yes, let's end this, I replied, my voice steady, my resolve ironclad. As the judge entered, the room fell into a weighted silence. The proceedings began, a formal dance of legal arguments and presentations of evidence. Catherine was relentless, laying out the case against Claire with surgical precision, the evidence I had gathered displayed for all to see. Claire's lawyer tried to counter, arguing about reconciliation and forgiveness, but the images and timestamps spoke louder than any plea for mercy. When it was Claire's turn to speak, her voice faltered. Mark, I know I made a terrible mistake. I am sorry, truly sorry, she said, her eyes beseeching. I don't need your apologies, Claire. I needed your loyalty, I stated coldly, my gaze not wavering from hers. The judge finally called for a recess before delivering the verdict. As we waited, Claire approached me, a last-ditch attempt perhaps to sway my resolve. Mark, regardless of how this ends, I hope one day you can forgive. Save your hopes for someone who cares, Claire, I interrupted, my voice icy. I came here for justice, not reconciliation. When we reconvened, the judge delivered the verdict. Favorable to me, it granted me the majority of our assets and approved the divorce on my terms. Claire's face crumpled at the ruling, but there was no satisfaction in seeing her broken. As we left the courtroom, Catherine congratulated me, but the victory felt hollow. I had won, yes, but at what cost? The real twist came days later. Catherine called me into her office with an unexpected revelation. Mark, there's something you need to know, she began, her expression unusually serious. We did a background check on the man Claire was with. It turns out, he's known for targeting vulnerable women, seducing them for their money. What are you saying? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. He's a con artist. Claire was his mark. We think she was genuinely unaware of his intentions, Catherine explained. The news hit me like a wave, cold and shocking. Had my thirst for revenge been misdirected? Had Claire been another victim rather than the architect of my pain? I left Catherine's office with a heavy heart, the ground shifting beneath me. Claire had betrayed me, yes, but she had been manipulated, exploited by a predator. I made one last decision, perhaps the hardest of them all. I visited Claire one final time, not to reconcile, but to offer a semblance of peace. Claire, I learned about him. I'm sorry for what you went through, I said, the words laborious but necessary. She looked up, surprise and confusion warring on her features. You mean? Yes. Take care of yourself, I said before turning away, leaving behind the tangled web of deception and betrayal. As I walked away, I realized that sometimes, the line between victim and perpetrator is blurred, and that perhaps the greatest revenge is finding the strength to forgive oneself and move on. Claire and I would part ways, forever altered by our shared history of betrayal, each carrying our own burdens into separate futures.